So my question for you is, what specifically makes Bitcoin's fixed supply and the proof of work network uniquely resilient compared to other cryptocurrencies?
Well, we have this concept in Bitcoin. In the early days, no one cared about us. Like, we were such a niche community. You know, we were a bunch of cypherpunks. We were trying to figure out how to do transactions outside the banking system. You know, before I got involved, the very, very early people, you know, had this immaculate conception, which is that Satoshi and the cypherpunk mailing list, some people got involved with it. You know, you had some early miners like Hal Finney and various other early Bitcoin community members. No one believed it would succeed. There were previous attempts. You know, they were trying to make it work, code it together. But there was only one person or a couple of people that were willing to mine. And so they started mining. And as the market continued, more and more people started mining. And then they transferred a few transactions. And then people started to decide, well, how do we create a market price for people that want to buy and sell? And so more and more people were mining, it went on. People were doing it from their laptops. And then as the network got more popular, you know, it is built into the protocol that the more people that are mining, the more difficult it is to mine, which means you have to consume more electricity, which is why it's called proof of work, because you have to prove that you're doing the work. And the more people that are contributing to proving that they're doing the work, the more difficult it gets to, you know, receive a block. And so eventually so many people were doing it that people decided, well, why can't I compete with everyone else and create a graphics card? So they then started doing it with GPUs, which is, you know, for more intense gaming types of consoles. And then eventually it hit a stage where as the ecosystem grew, people started to speculate on the prices. People started to use it in the dark web. People started to use it for online gaming. And then people started slowly to recognize that they could, you know, own their own money, spend their own money, and the money supply doesn't change. And so over time, it went up in value, and it was very, very volatile. And so more and more exchanges were created. The ecosystem just grew and grew and grew very organically, until eventually it hit the stage where the price of Bitcoin was worth so much that, you know, a group of people in China said, let's plug some, you know, some semiconductor chips from Taiwan and manufacture a special machine, an ASIC, and let's plug it into the cheapest form of electricity in China. And let's see if we can mine these things and outcompete all the GPUs. And then they decided, well, let's create an industry out of it. There are more people that want to mine as well. And so as the price went up organically, as we went through more halving events, more people started to mine. And we just bootstrapped through this immaculate conception where Satoshi, you know, I believe that Satoshi is no longer with us, so they can't move their coins. But it doesn't really matter anyway, because they never actually moved their coins, and it would only, you know, they mined all those coins. The work was done. It wasn't pre-mined. It wasn't, you know, done connected to a character. Satoshi, when some of the early developers were invited to speak at a CIA conference around Bitcoin, Satoshi decided to leave the project. You know, when Julian Assange decided the banks won't let me run WikiLeaks, decentralized media, can I use Bitcoin? And, you know, it just organically went through this thing. And in the end, nobody controlled it. There was no one dominant miner. There were mining pools that were set up, and it just went more and more decentralized. And so everybody that joined it didn't have an unfair advantage. Somebody may have been involved earlier, so that and kept it. Some were involved really early and sold it to somebody else. It was, I would say, Austrian economics on a blockchain, a pure free market that had an immaculate conception, fair launch. And ever since then, we've had probably at this stage 22 million attempts at creating any type of some competing proof of work, some other consensus models, and a million different iterations of cheaper, faster, better. And they all end up more centralized. They compromise something in order to achieve cheaper, faster, better. and none of them end up achieving the properties of Bitcoin, which is kind of like a network effect the size of the internet, and trying to get everybody to rebuild on top of a new internet when no one can create a better version and get the network effect that Bitcoin has now.